Welcome back, everyone. I'm Russ, and I'm joined by my daughter Ana. We're diving back into the murky, dangerous world of Dashiell Hammett's The Maltese Falcon.
It feels like things have gone from bad to worse for Sam Spade, doesn't it? In our last episode, we saw Spade dealing with the immediate messy fallout of his partner Miles Archer's murder.
That's right. Not only are the police breathing down his neck, specifically Dundee and Polehouse, but he's caught in a web of lies spun by his client. She started as Miss Wonderly, then Miss LeBlanc, and then finally, she admitted her real name is Bridget O'Shaughnessy.
She is quite the character. After confessing that her initial story was a total fabrication, she managed to convince, or at least manipulate, Spade into helping her, despite his better judgment. He's now effectively taken her money to protect her, but he's flying blind.
Exactly. And just when you think the pieces might be settling, a new player enters the office. A man named Joel Cairo. He's polished, he smells of perfume, and he's asking very specific, dangerous questions about a statuette, a black bird.
It's a classic setup for a mystery that keeps you guessing. The tension in the office is palpable, and we have no idea who is telling the truth, if anyone is telling the truth at all.
That's where we pick up today. Spade is trying to navigate this new lead while keeping the police at bay and managing a client he clearly shouldn't trust.
We've got a great reading ahead for you in chapters 5 and 6.
Before we jump in, if you're enjoying our journey through this noir classic, please take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps us bringing these stories to life for you.
Thanks for listening. Let's get to it.
Chapter 5, The Levantine.
Spade did not look at the pistol. He raised his arms and, leaning back in his chair, intertwined the fingers of his two hands behind his head. His eyes, holding no particular expression, remained focused on Cairo's dark face. Cairo coughed a little apologetic cough and smiled nervously with lips that had lost some of their redness. His dark eyes were humid and bashful and very earnest.
I intend to search your offices, Mr. Spade. I warn you that if you attempt to prevent me, I shall certainly shoot you. Go ahead. Spade's voice was as empty of expression as his face. You will please stand. The man with the pistol instructed him at whose thick chest the pistol was aimed. I shall have to make sure that you are not armed.
Spade stood up, pushing his chair back with his calves as he straightened his legs. Cairo went around behind him. He transferred the pistol from his right hand to his left. He lifted Spade's coat tail and looked under it. Holding the pistol close to Spade's back, he put his right hand around Spade's side and patted his chest. The Levantine face was then no more than 6 inches below and behind Spade's right elbow. Spade's elbow dropped as Spade spun to the right. Cairo's face jerked back not far enough. Spade's right heel on the patent-leathered toes anchored the smaller man in the elbow's path. The elbow struck him beneath the cheekbone, staggering him so that he must have fallen had he not been held by Spade's foot on his foot. Spade's elbow went on past the astonished dark face and straightened when Spade's hand struck down at the pistol. Cairo let the pistol go the instant that Spade's fingers touched it. The pistol was small in Spade's hand. Spade took his foot off Cairo's to complete his about face. With his left hand, Spade gathered together the smaller man's coat lapels, the ruby-set green tie bunching out over his knuckles, while his right hand stowed the captured weapon away in a coat pocket. Spade's yellow-gray eyes were somber. His face was wooden, with a trace of sullenness around the mouth. Cairo's face was twisted by pain and chagrin. There were tears in his dark eyes. His skin was the complexion of polished lead, except where the elbow had reddened his cheek. Spade, by means of his grip on the Levantine's lapels, turned him slowly and pushed him back until he was standing close in front of the chair he had lately occupied. A puzzled look replaced the look of pain in the lead-colored face. Then Spade smiled. His smile was gentle, even dreamy. His right shoulder raised a few inches. His bent right arm was driven up by the shoulder's lift. Fist, wrist, forearm, crooked elbow, and upper arm seemed all one rigid piece, with only the limber shoulder giving them motion. The fist struck Cairo's face, covering him for a moment one side of his chin, a corner of his mouth, and most of his cheek between cheekbone and jawbone. Cairo shut his eyes and was unconscious.
Spade lowered the limp body into the chair where it lay with sprawled arms and legs, the head lolling back against the chair's back, the mouth open. Spade emptied the unconscious man's pockets one by one, working methodically, moving the lax body when necessary, making a pile of the pocket's contents on the desk. When the last pocket had been turned out, he returned to his own chair, rolled and lighted a cigarette, and began to examine his spoils. He examined them with grave, unhurried thoroughness. There was a large wallet of dark, soft leather. The wallet contained $365 in United States bills of several sizes, three 5-pound notes, a much visaed Greek passport bearing Cairo's name and portrait, 5 folded sheets of pinkish onion skin paper covered with what seemed to be Arabic writing, a raggedly clipped newspaper account of the finding of Archer's and Thursby's bodies, a postcard photograph of a dusky woman with bold, cruel eyes and a tender, drooping mouth, a large silk handkerchief, yellow with age and somewhat cracked along its folds, a thin sheaf of Mr. Joel Cairo's engraved cards, and a ticket for an orchestra seating at the Geary Theater that evening. Besides the wallet and its contents, there were 3 gaily colored silk handkerchiefs, fragrant of cheaper, a platinum Longines watch on a platinum and red gold chain, attached at the other end to a small pear-shaped pendant of some white metal, a handful of United States, British, French, and Chinese coins, a ring holding half a dozen keys, a silver and onyx fountain pen, a metal comb in a leatherette case, a nail file in a leatherette case, a small street guide to San Francisco, a Southern Pacific baggage check, a half-filled package of violet pastilles, a Shanghai insurance broker's business card, and 4 sheets of Hotel Belvedere writing paper, on one of which was written in small, precise letters Samuel Spade's name and the addresses of his office and his apartment.
Having examined these articles carefully, he even opened the back of the watch case to see that nothing was hidden inside. Spade leaned over and took the unconscious man's wrist between finger and thumb, feeling his pulse. Then he dropped the wrist, settled back in his chair, and rolled and lighted another cigarette. His face while he smoked was, except for occasional slight and aimless movements of his lower lip, so still and reflective that it seemed stupid. But when Cairo presently moaned and fluttered his eyelids, Spade's face became bland, and he put the beginning of a friendly smile into his eyes and mouth. Joel Cairo awakened slowly. His eyes opened first, but a full minute passed before they fixed their gaze on any definite part of the ceiling. Then he shut his mouth and swallowed, exhaling heavily through his nose afterward. He drew in one foot and turned a hand over on his thigh. Then he raised his head from the chair back, looked around the office in confusion, saw Spade, and sat up. He opened his mouth to speak, started, clapped a hand to his face where Spade's fist had struck and where there was now a florid bruise.
Cairo said through his teeth painfully, I could have shot you, Mr. Spade. You could have tried, Spade conceded. I did not try. I know. Then why did you strike me after I was disarmed? Sorry, Spade said and grinned wolfishly, showing his jaw teeth. But imagine my embarrassment when I found that $5,000 offer was just hooey. You are mistaken, Mr. Spade. That was and is a genuine offer. What the hell? Spade's surprise was genuine. I am prepared to pay $5,000 for the figure's return. Cairo took his hand away from his bruised face and sat up, prim and businesslike again. Do you have it? No. If it's not here, Cairo was very politely skeptical. Why should you have risked serious injury to prevent my searching for it? I should sit around and let people come in and stick me up? Spade flicked a finger at Cairo's possessions on the desk. You've got my apartment address. Been up there yet? Yes, Mr. Spade. I am ready to pay $5,000 for the figure's return. But surely it is natural enough that I should try to spare the owner the expense, if possible. Who is he? Cairo shook his head and smiled. You will have to forgive my not answering that question. Will I? Spade leaned forward, smiling with tight lips. I've got you by the neck, Cairo. You've walked in and tied yourself up plenty strong enough to suit the police with last night's killings. Well, now you have to play with me or else.
Cairo's smile was demure and not in any way alarmed.
I made somewhat extensive inquiries about you before taking any action, he said, and was assured that you were far too reasonable to allow other considerations to interfere with profitable business relations. Spade shrugged. Where are they? He asked. I have offered you $5,000 for...
Spade thumped Cairo's wallet with the backs of his fingers and said,
There's nothing like $5,000 here. You're betting your eyes. You could come in and say you're going to pay me $1 million for a purple elephant, but what in the hell would that mean? I see, I see, Cairo said thoughtfully, screwing up his eyes. You wish some assurance of my sincerity. He brushed his red lower lip with a fingertip. A retainer, would that serve? It might.
Cairo put his hand out towards his wallet, hesitated, withdrew the hand, and said,
You will take, say, $100? Spade picked up the wallet and took out $100. Then he frowned and said, Better make it 200, and did.
Cairo said nothing.
Your first guess was that I had the bird, Spade said in a crisp voice when he had put the $200 into his pocket and had dropped the wallet on the desk again. There's nothing in that. What's your second? That you know where it is, or if not exactly that, that you know where to get it.
Spade neither denied nor affirmed that. He had seemed hardly have heard it. He asked,
What sort of proof can you give me that your man is the owner? Very little, unfortunately. There is this, though. Nobody else can give you any authentic evidence of ownership at all, and if you know as much about the affair as I suppose, or I should not be here, you know that the means by which it was taken from him shows that his right to it was more valid than anyone else's. Certainly more valid than Thursby's. What about his daughter?
Excitement opened Cairo's eyes and mouth. turned his face red, made his voice shrill.
He is not the owner? Oh, is he here in San Francisco now? Cairo asked in a less shrill, but still very excited voice.
Spade blinked his eyes sleepily and suggested,
It might be better all around if we put our cards on the table.
Cairo recovered composure with a little jerk.
I do not think it would be better.
His voice was suave now.
If you know more than I shall profit by your knowledge, and so will you to the extent of $5,000. If you do not, then I have made a mistake in coming to you, and to do as you suggest would be to simply make that mistake even worse.
Spade nodded indifferently and waved his hand at the articles on the desk, saying,
There's your stuff.
and then, when Cairo was returning them to his pockets,
It's understood that you're to pay my expenses while I'm getting this black bird for you, and $5,000 when it's done. Yes, Mr. Spade, that is $5,000 less whatever monies have been advanced to you. 5,000 in all. Right, and it's a legitimate proposition.
Spade's face was solemn except for wrinkles at the corners of his eyes.
You're not hiring me to do any murders or burglaries for you, but simply to get it back if possible in an honest and lawful way. If possible, Cairo agreed. His face also was solemn except for the eyes. And in any event, with discretion, he rose and picked up his hat. I am at the Hotel Belvedere when you wish to communicate with me. Room 635. I confidently expect the greatest mutual benefit from our association, Mr. Spade. He hesitated. May I have my pistol? Sure, I'd forgotten it.
Spade took the pistol out of his coat pocket and handed it to Cairo. Cairo pointed the pistol at Spade's chest.
You will please keep your hands on top of the desk, Cairo said earnestly. I intend to search your offices. I'll be damned. Then he laughed in his throat and said, All right, go ahead. I won't stop you. Chapter 6. The Undersized Shadow.
For half an hour after Joel Cairo had gone, Spade sat alone, still and frowning, at his desk. Then he said aloud in the tone of one dismissing a problem,
Well, they're paying for it.
and took a bottle of Manhattan cocktail and a paper drinking cup from a desk drawer. He filled the cup 2/3 full, drank, returned the bottle to the drawer, tossed the cup into the wastebasket, put on his hat and overcoat, turned off the lights, and went down to the night-lit street. An undersized youth of 20 or 21, in neat gray cap and overcoat, was standing idly on the corner below Spade's building. Spade walked up Sutter Street to Kearny, where he entered a cigar store to buy 2 sacks of Bull Durham. When he came out, the youth was one of 4 people waiting for a streetcar on the opposite corner. Spade ate dinner at Herbert's Grill in Powell Street. When he left the grill at 7:45, the youth was looking into a nearby haberdasher's window. Spade went to the Hotel Belvedere, asking at the desk for Mr. Cairo. He was told that Cairo was not in. The youth sat in a chair in a far corner of the lobby. Spade went to the Geary Theater, failed to see Cairo in the lobby, and posted himself on the curb in front, facing the theater. The youth loitered with other loiterers before Marcard's restaurant below. At 8:10, Joe Cairo appeared, walking up Geary Street with his little mincing, bobbing steps. Apparently he did not see Spade until the private detective touched his shoulder. He seemed moderately surprised for a moment and then said,
Oh, yes, of course. You saw the ticket. Uh-huh. I've got something I want to show you.
Spade drew Cairo back towards the curb a little way from the other waiting theater goers.
The kid in the cap down by my cards. Cairo murmured, I'll see, and looked at his watch. He looked up Geary Street. He looked at a theater sign in front of him on which George Arliss was shown costumed as Shylock, and then his dark eyes crawled sideways in their sockets until they were looking at the kid in the cap, at his cool, pale face with curling lashes hiding his lower eyes. Who is he? Cairo smiled at Spade. I do not know him. He's been tailing me around town. Cairo wet his lower lip with his tongue and asked, Do you think it was wise then to let him see us together? How do I know? Anyway, it's done.
Cairo removed his hat and smoothed his hair with a gloved hand. He replaced his hat carefully on his head and said with every appearance of candor,
I give you my word I do not know him, Mr. Spade. I give you my word I have nothing to do with him. I have asked nobody's assistance except yours, on my word of honor. Then he's one of the others. That may be. I just wanted to know because if he gets to be more of a nuisance, I may have to hurt him. Do as you think best. He's not a friend of mine. That's good. There goes the curtain. Good night, Spade said, and crossed the street to board a westbound streetcar.
The youth in the cap boarded the same car. Spade left the car at Hyde Street and went up to his apartment. His rooms were not greatly upset, but showed unmistakable signs of having been searched. When Spade had washed and had put on a fresh t-shirt and collar, he went out again, walked up to Sutter Street, and boarded a westbound car. The youth boarded it also. Within half a dozen blocks of the coronet, Spade left the car and went into the vestibule of a tall brown apartment building. He pressed 3 bell buttons together. The street door lock buzzed. He entered, passed the elevator and stairs, went down a long, yellow-walled corridor to the rear of the building, found a back door fastened by a Yale lock, and let himself out into a narrow court. The court led to a dark back street, up which Spade walked for 2 blocks. Then he crossed over to California Street and went to the coronet. It was not quite 9:30. The eagerness with which Bridget O'Shaughnessy welcomed Spade suggested that she had not been entirely certain of his coming. She had put on a satin gown of the blue shade called artoise that season, with chalcedony shoulder straps, and her stockings and slippers were artoise as well. The red and cream sitting room had been brought to order and livened with flowers in squat pottery vases of black and silver. 3 small, round, rough-barked logs burned in the fireplace. Spade watched them burn while she put away his hat and coat. "Do you bring me good news?" she asked when she came into the room again. Anxiety looked through her smile, and she held her breath.
We won't have to make anything public that hasn't already been made public.
"The police won't have to know about me?"
No.
She sighed happily and sat on the walnut settee. Her face relaxed and her body relaxed. She smiled up at him with admiring eyes. "However did you manage it?" she asked, more in wonder than in curiosity.
Most things in San Francisco can be bought or taken.
"And you won't get into trouble? Do sit down." She made room for him on the settee.
I don't mind a reasonable amount of trouble, he said, with not too much complacence. He stood beside the fireplace and looked at her with eyes that studied, weighed, judged her without pretense that they were not studying, weighing, or judging her. She flushed slightly under the frankness of his scrutiny, but she seemed more sure of herself than before, though a becoming shyness had not left her eyes. She stood there until it seemed plain that he meant to ignore her invitation to sit beside her, and then crossed to the settee. "You aren't," he asked as he sat down, "exactly the sort of person you pretend to be, are you?"
I'm not sure what you mean, she said in her hushed voice, looking at him with puzzled eyes.
"Schoolgirl manner," he explained, "stammering, blushing, and all that."
She blushed and replied hurriedly, not looking at him. I told you this afternoon that I've been bad, worse than you could know.
"That's what I mean," he said. "You told me that this afternoon in the same words, same tone. It's a speech you've practiced."
After a moment in which she seemed confused, almost to the point of tears, she laughed and said, Very well then, Mr. Spade. I'm not at all the sort of person I pretend to be. I'm 80 years old, incredibly wicked, and an iron molder by trade. But if it's a pose, it's one I've grown into, so you won't expect me to drop it entirely, will you?
"Oh, it's all right," he assured her. "Only it wouldn't be all right if you were actually that innocent. We'd never get anywhere."
I won't be innocent, she promised with a hand on her heart.
"I saw Joel Cairo tonight," he said in the manner of one making polite conversation.
Gaiety went out of her face. Her eyes, focused on his profile, became frightened, then cautious. He had stretched his legs out and was looking at his crossed feet. His face did not indicate that he was thinking about anything. There was a long pause before she asked uneasily, You. you know him?
"I saw him tonight." Spade did not look up, and he maintained his light conversational tone. "He was going to see George Arliss."
You mean you talked to him?
"Only for a minute or two, till the curtain bell rang."
She got up from the settee and went to the fireplace to poke the fire. She changed slightly the position of an ornament on the mantelpiece, crossed the room to get a box of cigarettes from a table in a corner, straightened a curtain, and returned to her seat. Her face now was smooth and unworried.
Spade grinned sidewise at her and said, "You're good. You're very good."
Her face did not change. She asked quietly, What did he say?
About what?"
She hesitated. About me.
"Nothing." Spade turned to hold his lighter under the end of her cigarette. His eyes were shiny in a wooden Satan's face.
Well, what did he say? She asked with half playful petulance.
"He offered me $5,000 for that black bird."
She started, her teeth toward the end of her cigarette, and her eyes, after a swift, alarmed glance at Spade, turned away from him.
"You're not going to go around poking at the fire and straightening up the room again, are you?" he said lazily.
She laughed a clear, merry laugh, dropped the mangled cigarette into a tray, and looked at him with clear, merry eyes. I won't, she promised. And what did you say?
$5,000 is a lot of money.
She smiled, but when, instead of smiling, he looked gravely at her, her smile became faint, confused, and presently vanished. In its place came a hurt, bewildered look. Surely you're not really considering it, she said.
"Why not? $5,000 is a lot of money."
But, Mr. Spade, you promised to help me. Her hands were on his arm. I trusted you. You can't. She broke off, took her hands from his sleeve, and worked them together.
Spade smiled gently into her troubled eyes. "Don't let's try to figure out how much you've trusted me," he said. "I promised to help you, sure, but you didn't say anything about any black birds."
But you must have known, or you wouldn't have mentioned it to me. You do know now. You won't, you can't treat me like that. Her eyes were cobalt blue prayers.
$5,000 is, he said for the third time, a lot of money.
She lifted her shoulders and hands and let them fall in a gesture that accepted defeat. It is, she agreed in a small, dull voice. It is far more than I could ever offer you if I must bid for your loyalty.
Spade laughed. His laughter was brief and somewhat bitter. That is good, he said. Coming from you, what have you given me besides money? Have you given me any of your confidence, any of the truth, any help in helping you? Haven't you tried to buy my loyalty with money and nothing else? Well, if I'm peddling it, why shouldn't I go to the highest bidder?
I've given you all the money I have. Tears glistened in her white ringed eyes. Her voice was hoarse, vibrant. I've thrown myself on your mercy, told you that without your help I'm utterly lost. What else is there? She suddenly moved close to him on the settee and cried angrily, Can I buy you with my body?
Their faces were a few inches apart. Spade took her face between his hands and he kissed her mouth roughly and contemptuously. Then he sat back and said, I'll think it over. His face was hard and furious.
She sat still, holding her numbed face where his hands had left it.
He stood up and said, Christ, there's no sense in this. He took 2 steps towards the fireplace and stopped, glowering at the burning logs, grinding his teeth together.
She did not move.
He turned to face her. The 2 vertical lines above his nose were deep clefts between red whales. I don't give a damn about your honesty, he told her, trying to make himself speak calmly. I don't care what kind of tricks you're up to, what your secrets are, but I've got to have something to show that you know what you're doing.
I do know. Please believe that I do, and that it's all for the best, and
Show me, he ordered. I'm willing to help you. I've done what I could so far. If necessary, I'll go ahead blindfolded, but I can't do it without more confidence in you than I've got right now. You've got to convince me that you know what it's all about, that you're not simply fiddling around by guess and by God, hoping it'll come out all right somehow in the end.
can't you trust me just a little longer?
How much is a little? And what are you waiting for?
She bit her lip and looked down. I must talk to Joel Cairo, she said almost inaudibly.
You can see him tonight, Spade said, looking at his watch. His show will be out soon. We can get him on the phone at his hotel.
She raised her eyes, alarmed. But he can't come here. I can't let him know where I am. I'm afraid.
My place, then, Spade suggested.
She hesitated, working her lips together, then asked, Do you think he'd go there?
Spade nodded.
All right, she exclaimed, jumping up, her eyes large and bright. Shall we go now? She went into the next room.
Spade went to the table in the corner and silently pulled the drawer out. The drawer held 2 packs of playing cards, a pack of score cards for bridge, a brass screw, a piece of red string, and a gold pencil. He had shut the drawer and was lighting a cigarette when she returned wearing a small dark hat and a gray kidskin coat, carrying his hat and coat.
Their taxicab drew up behind a dark sedan that stood directly in front of Spade's street door. Iva Archer was alone in the sedan, sitting at the wheel. Spade left his hat to her and went indoors with Bridget O'Shaughnessy. In the lobby, he halted beside one of the benches and asked,
Do you mind waiting here a moment? I won't be long.
That's perfectly all right, Bridget O'Shaughnessy said, sitting down. You needn't hurry. Spade went out to the sedan. When he had opened the sedan's door, Iva spoke quickly. I've got to talk to you, Sam. Can't I come in? Her face was pale and nervous.
Not now.
Iva clicked her teeth together and asked sharply, Who is she?
I've only got a minute, Iva, Spade said patiently. What is it?
Who is she? She repeated, nodding at the street door.
He looked away from her down the street. In front of a garage on the next corner, an undersized youth of 20 or 21 in neat gray cap and overcoat loafed with his back against a wall. Spade frowned and returned his gaze to Iva's insistent face. "What is the matter?" he asked. "Has something happened? You oughtn't be here at this time of night."
I'm beginning to believe that, she complained. You told me I oughtn't to come to the office, and now I oughtn't to come here. Do you mean I oughtn't to chase after you? If that's what you mean, why don't you say it right out?
"Now, Iva, you've got no right to take that attitude."
I know I haven't. I haven't any rights at all, it seems, where you're concerned. I thought I did. I thought your pretending to love me gave me.
Spade said wearily. "This is no time to be arguing about that, Precious. What was it that you wanted to see me about?"
I can't talk to you here, Sam. Can't I come in?
"Not now."
Why can't I?
Spade said nothing.
She made a thin line of her mouth, squirmed around straight behind the wheel, and started the sedan's engine, staring angrily ahead.
When the sedan began to move, Spade said, "Good night, Iva," shut the door, and stood at the curb with his hat in his hand until it had been driven away. Then he went indoors again. Bridget O'Shaughnessy rose smiling cheerfully from the bench, and they went up to his apartment. I think the first thing I wanted to talk about was the technique that showed that Spade was pretty physically dominant over Joel Cairo.
Hmm.
He basically made short work of him, even
Yeah.
though Joel had a gun. He
Hmm.
planted that heel anchor move and then knocked him out, or knocked him down at least. It
Hmm.
did say he knocked him out. So I'm wondering, we don't see a whole lot to this point about how physical and how much a tough guy Sam Spade is, but this
Hmm.
kind of really just showed that he does know how to handle himself.
Yeah, it gives him another dimension. He's not just the brains behind a detective firm. He's also got some body behind him. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Another person who's got a little bit of a third side to her is Bridget O'Shaughnessy. We mentioned her.
Hmm.
She's got LeBlanc. She got a bunch of different characters, basically. But overall, she does a pretty good job of performing because she kind of, well, she did fool Miles and Spade in the beginning, and now she's still kind of putting on an act with Spade, but I think, he sees behind it and just makes me wonder, should we trust her or should we just go along with it and see what happens? Because maybe she is gonna help Spade in some way. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely think by this point that Spade knows exactly who he's dealing with. And he didn't mince words with her either. He called her out on it, right?
Hmm.
But you know, as
Yeah.
is in any economy, there are a lot of people that they just need to make money, and he's willing to put up with that. However,
Yeah.
this kind of thing, when you're in that kind of situation, it could lead to a life or death situation. Obviously, I don't think he can trust her.
Mm.
So, the other character I kind of touched on at the beginning was Joel Cairo. He's kind of this kind of greasy, Weasley kind of character that's uh, played up to be a very well dressed and good smelling guy, but he definitely seems to be a weasel. But my point on this is it was kind of absurd because he's offering Spade $5,000 to find the black bird.
Mhm.
And then he pulls a gun on him, and then he gets knocked out, gets the gun taken away, and then and then Spade gives him the gun back for some
Yeah.
reason, which I would never do. And then
Yeah.
he pulls a gun on him again and demands to search the office. So it's
Hmm.
kind of an absurd situation. Why would you want to hire a detective and then try to kill him? Obviously, to me, I think it's all about greed. It's all about finding that statuette.
Yeah. That kind of is what all these people are centered around is money and this mysterious statue. Because we can see like later in the sixth chapter, They start getting tailed. Well, Spade gets tailed by this young kid. He's like maybe 20. They specifically mentioned 20 or 21. And he's in a cap and he's always slightly behind them. And he was tailing Spade for a while, but then whenever he met up with Joel Cairo, he kind of probably brushed the kid off with him too. So perhaps this is a third character um in the story, maybe someone else who wants the figure. Don't know where this is gonna go, but it just is kind of creepy because the kid's always there, no matter where. He can't really shake him off.
Yeah, that's an interesting point because they called it out a couple times in the story. The point that obviously he is following him, but Spade sees him every time.
Hmm.
In these kind of stories, I've seen these younger guys are hired by other people
Yeah.
to trail somebody and then report back. So
Hmm.
my take on it is that he is trailing Spade and or Cairo for somebody else. The
Hmm.
question is who?
Yeah.
Okay, and kind of all around this, we have this intersection of a bunch of dangerous clients. We have Iva Archer is kind of out on the side. I wouldn't say she's dangerous.
Yeah.
But she's like this side kind of issue that Spade is having. But we have Bridget and we have Cairo um, that are very dangerous. Obviously, we don't know what the true intentions are. With
Hmm.
Cairo, it seems to be greed. I don't know about Bridget. We don't know exactly what this statuette is and why
Hmm.
they want it. But we've got all these interesting characters that some know each other. For instance, Bridget knew who Cairo was,
Yeah.
but Iva is kind of out there on the side. She didn't know who Bridget was when they all
Hmm.
rolled up to the apartment at the same time.
Yeah. And whenever she was talking to him outside of the apartment, she really wanted to talk to him about something. So I wonder if that has anything to do with that, because she shouldn't know about the bird, but you never know with these kinds of stories. But
Yeah.
whenever they're going back to the apartment to meet Cairo, it makes me wonder, does Bridget actually want to see Cairo, or are they working together perhaps, and she's leading Spade into a trap? This is Spade's house, so he would have the upper hand, I figure, in the grounds, but I don't know. Maybe they're just gonna meet and split the funds or something if they find it together.
Yeah, I think at this point we're still very early on in the book, but I think there's a key component we don't know yet. It's my feeling. I don't think that Bridget and Cairo are working together. I think they're
Mhm.
working against each other.
Yeah.
However, just the fact that they know each other, there's the big question to me. How do they
Yeah.
know each other? How are both of these people out after that bird at the same time? And yeah, you're right. It will be interesting when we get to see them in the next chapter. So, well, that's where we leave them for now, with a meeting set that could either solve everything or get someone killed.
I'm honestly not sure which is more likely at this point. Join us next time for chapters 7 and 8 as we see what happens when the birds' hunters finally collide. Thanks for listening to Dragon's Den Classics.